we have a client that does, internet sales. A lot of people out there are doing
Sure.
internet sales, right? And does your insurance cover advertising injury, right? So if you go and do something online, whether it's, violate ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act compliance, or your website does something that it shouldn't do, or you infringe on somebody's trademark or anything along those lines, you might get sued, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then your insurance policy has an exclusion for advertising injury, right? And you're like, well, wait a second. All I do is advertise.
Right.
Right?
How could you have, pretty much every business advertises in some way. How could you even reasonably have, what's an example of a business, and maybe this is an unfair question. It's not something we talked about before we recorded, but what's a business that wouldn't need advertising coverage, or an errors and omissions like that?
Well, there's a lot of businesses that don't really go out there and, really actively advertise, let's just say, right? Like people go and use Google AdWords and they spend money to bid on keywords and clicks, and you're much more exposed that way to doing something that maybe you shouldn't have done.
Interesting.
Right? Infringing on
sure.
some other business. Maybe you compare yourself to another business in an unfair way and you didn't even know that wasn't okay, but you did it and now you're getting sued.
I know, right.
Right? Whereas, mom and pop plumber company that's got their, logo on their truck and has their, Google Maps page and has their web page. They're not really advertising in that sense.
And so in that case, not that you're an attorney, not a broker, ask your insurance broker about these questions, but in that situation, even as, not that you'd be advising somebody, but even in that situation, you're like, I can understand why somebody would exclude that from their policy.
Or not need
really,
it, right? That you might think how much coverage do I need here?
Right.
What am I going to do that's going to cause?
Well, I guess that's the other part of it, is not just if you have any coverage, but
what's your coverage?
Do you have enough?
Right.
Because that's the other thing. If you caused enough damage with that advertising example, maybe you did have coverage, but you didn't have enough. And so also defining that, right?
Right. And there's an important note there. And there's two things I want to cover. So don't let me forget the second one,
Okay.
which is the insurance defense piece.
Okay.
But the first part is the how much, right? And the how much is a great question, because people will get, coverages. For instance, right? If you get coverage for, and I forget the exact term, but basically somebody hacks your website,
Okay.
right? It's like a hacking coverage, and get all of your, customer information, whatever you store. A lot of people don't really store their data on their own servers, right? So if you have a Shopify store, for instance, you probably don't store your own data.
Right, it's all with Shopify
stores
PayPal,
it.
whatever your service.
Right, so they need to get hacked in order for that to be an issue. Maybe, I don't know, right? But a lot of businesses that are small businesses have some, maybe they store your credit card, maybe they store your, your address, your
Right.
phone number. I don't know if there's reason for people to take your social, but maybe they take your social and they store that locally somewhere, and somebody potentially hacks your business, and you're like, yeah, I have coverage for that, but it's $10,000.
Right.
So like, all right, well, how far does that get us?
Right.
And so that's a great question, is to not only look at whether or not you have coverage, but really what is the coverage? What's the amount of coverage? And does it cover the thing that I need?